Just over 5 years ago, when the CT4 and CT5 were announced, there were some reservations by car shoppers because they were replacing the ATS and TTS that were very much beloved. But we didn't know at the time that we were going to get Blackwing versions for both models, which I think has actually saved these cars in the long run. But here we are on the verge of 2025, and we're now at a point where we're getting a facelift for the exterior and interior. Cadillac is the last American manufacturer in the luxury segments that's still building cars. Today we'll be taking a look at the premium luxury for the CT5 and check out what is brand new for this model. Just from the outside, it's stunning, really has some striking looks. But also for the interior, you now have technology that could very well compete against the BMWs, Audis, and Mercedes-Benzes of the world. And today, we're going to find out what this car is offering under $60,000. Now, before we get in this video, I want to give a huge shout and thank you to Cadillac of Norwood in Norwood, Massachusetts for letting me come down here to check out the new CT5. Their link will be in the description below, so you can check out their extensive Cadillac inventory. As usual, let's begin with pricing. The model we have today is the premium luxury, coming in at just under $49,000. If you are taking notes at home, for 2025, you do no longer get the luxury trim. So compared to last year, the luxury trim was your entry model for the CT5, which came in just under 40 grand. Cadillac is now going more upmarket with this model to better compete with the 3 Series, with the A4, also of course the Mercedes-Benz C-Class, and we'll get into that in a little bit because you would think that the CT5 with its size would compete with the BMW 5 Series or E-Class, but that isn't the case. Also, by going more upmarket on the pricing, this vehicle has more standard equipment than you did in the past. So they've really trimmed down on the optional packages, making far more standard, but also when you take a look at the interior and the technology and everything they're now giving you, there's a reason it now costs close to 50 grand. In regards to dimensions for the CT5, this is where it gets a bit tricky because depending on what you're looking for in your next daily driver, depending on what market you're solely focusing on, you could cross-shop this with the 5 Series, although there's a few reasons why I'd say not so much. And also, of course, you can cross-shop this with the luxury compact sedans, such as the Genesis G70 and, of course, that BMW 3 Series. So in terms of length, you're looking at 194 inches, which is about 8 inches more than the BMW 3 Series and others in this segment. So right away, you're probably thinking, wait a minute, I can actually cross-shop this with a 5 Series instead. Well, the new 5 Series for 2024 is 199 inches in length. So keeping all of that in mind, the CT5 is more of a tweener in this segment. And really, keeping it traditional to what Cadillac is all about, you're getting more car for the price. So that is one thing you will be needing to keep in mind. But also, as we're going to be talking about throughout this review, with the larger dimensions, you get better interior space. So it's more family friendly, but also feels more grand on the roadways, especially under $60,000. And I think that right there is why the CT5 is so compelling, because you could theoretically cross-shop this with a number of different cars in the market. And it really just boils down to what you're looking for. If you want a smaller car, go with a CT4. If you want something a bit more substantial that has more of that upscale presence to it, go with the CT5. And speaking of an upscale and grand appearance, what Cadillac has done for 2025, they've really dug deep into their current automotive heritage and taking inspiration from their prototype that runs in Le Mans and IMSA, where even though it's not going to show as well on this model with it being black, there's more gloss black accents that run the length of the headlight housings that gives you more of that performance and dynamic feel, even with this model being a premium luxury and not the sport. Now, with those headlight housings, they have been reshaped a bit. You have more of an interactive experience when you turn on this car for the first time. Of course, you will have the LED daytime running light running down the front fascia, giving you that nice waterfall effect. Again, one thing I think a lot of us have definitely appreciated about Cadillacs in the 2020s. Also, another thing too that they've really been working on with their front grille is moving away from the chrome accents and giving you more of that gloss black mesh look, which I think really ties everything together on this model. Now, we still have the chrome accents that outline the grille, but I think it goes really well with the black paint color. You'll also have smaller chrome accents on the mesh grille itself, giving you a nice color contrast for this car. And honestly, this car makes a great first impression now for 2025 that a lot of older Cadillacs used to have on the market back in the day. Moving over to the side profile, our model is sitting on the optional 20-inch alloy wheels that will take away from on-road comfort. However, by sacrificing on-road comfort, you have a car that looks much more grand, but also more performance-oriented as well. You can also tell from this side angle that the chrome accents do continue, outline the windows, which is a classy touch, but also traditional to the Cadillac nameplate. You're also going to have color matched side mirror caps that are power adjustable and folding, and you will have LED turn signal indicators along with blind spot detection for added safety. Then as you make your way around to the back, nothing too different for the CT5 and for 2025, since Cadillac focused all their attention on the front fascia and the interior technology. But one thing I do like about the CT5 is the sloping roofline. That's not necessarily a sport back per se, but it does give you that more performance-oriented design that I know a lot of people love in the 2020s. Now, of course, we do have the dual exhaust outlets on our model, LED taillights, and we do have the chrome accents once again making their appearance for the rear fascia, tying everything together on this model. Under the hood of our CT5, we have the optional 3-liter twin-turbo V6 engine, producing 335 horsepower and 405 pound-feet of torque. It is paired with a 10-speed automatic transmission. Now, in regards to drivetrain, you can go with rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. All-wheel drive is a $2,000 option. And when you factor in the pricing with this engine, you're spending close to around $54,000, $55,000. And at that point, you're probably saying, wait a minute, now I can go with a BMW M340i or Audi S4. Well, not so fast, because with the S4 and M340i, you're spending around 60 grand. So you're saving $5,000 going with a twin-turbo V6 with the CT5. Now, you can go with the 2-liter 4-cylinder, giving you 237 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque if you want to save a few grand. But I think that if you're somebody who is power hungry, you're going to find this powertrain to be far more suitable for your driving style. In regards to fuel economy, you're looking at right around 18 miles per gallon in the city and 26 miles per gallon on the highway with this powertrain. Just a minor sacrifice to get that better performance. However, if fuel efficiency is a top priority and you want a car that gives you the best bang for your buck, going with the Turbo 4, you're going to have right around 23 miles per gallon in the city and 33 miles per gallon on the highway. That will fall right in line with a lot of its closest competitors. So stepping inside our model today, we're greeted by power adjustable, heated, and ventilated leather trimmed seats, which I have to say, this upholstery is very nice and high quality, especially for a car at around $50,000 and what is now the entry trim for the CT5. The driver's side also gets 2-position memory for added convenience, and a nice feature to have in a car at this price point, you do get a power tilting and telescopic steering column. Really nice to have. The one thing that you are going to be focusing on, though, for 2025 is the technology, and that is one key factor the CT5 and CT4 didn't have in the past. I think technology-wise, that's where Cadillac was falling behind its closest rivals, and you really can't say that anymore. So your eyes are going to be drawn to this 33-inch curved screen that we first saw on the XT4, but to a more grander extent, the Cadillac Escalade. And it's so great to see this technology trickling down to the more affordable vehicles in the lineup. This gives Cadillac a competitive advantage in this market, especially when you are looking at buying a car of this size that undercuts the 5 Series and also the E-Class. Now, with this screen, it conjoins the digital gauge cluster and your main head unit, which is all Google-based, by the way. And one thing that is going to really impress you is the fact that compared to the CT5 of old, the technology isn't going to be very similar to what you're going to have in Chevrolet, Buick, and GMC. There is some differentiating technology and design here that I really love, and also tells me that Cadillac is serious about trying to move away from being a more grander Chevrolet. So on the far left, you are going to have the ability to customize this gauge cluster. It's not going to be as in-depth as what you're going to find with Audi's virtual cockpit or the software that you have with BMW. However, you can go with traditional gauges that definitely gives you more of a sportier feel. On top of that, you can also display your Google Maps navigation map. And also you can go with more of a clean layout, which is going to be less distracting. Beneath that, you'll find 2 icons. One is to change up the settings for this gauge cluster. And then to the right, you can see your trip odometer and also your average fuel economy. And quickly taking a look at the infotainment system, you are going to have a Google-based software here, which is still very easy to use, but better yet, there are a few things that carry over from the pre-facelifted model that I can really appreciate, and I'm glad Cadillac kept in this vehicle, because a lot of buyers don't want to use a touchscreen only. They want physical buttons, and you have that here with the CT5. So beneath that screen, you still have physical buttons for your dual zone climate control, your heated and ventilated seats. But better yet, and BMW is removing some of these features from their vehicles, at least their more affordable vehicles in the lineup, you still have the rotary dial and quick access buttons, which I absolutely love. That way you're not reaching for the screen. You can keep your eyes on the road ahead of you. And that was one thing I really liked about Cadillacs in the past, that they had this dual functionality setup that really does go a long way and makes things so much easier to use, especially if you're not someone who is tech focused. Now, if you are using the touchscreen though, it's quick to respond, there's no lagging. You can slide to different menus, you can change up what you're looking at very quickly, and I absolutely love that. You can also change up the ambient lighting in this car, so it gives you more of a higher class feel for the interior. Then of course, you can still change up the climate settings from this screen, but why would you with those physical buttons? Now, of course, from this screen, you can scroll through a number of different things, such as your Google Assistant. You can also use Alexa as well, your vehicle settings, also your vehicle status. So you can check your tires and brakes, your fluids and filters, your engine and battery, and then of course your fuel economy, so you can see how your car is performing on a longer drive. But more importantly, and I think a lot of buyers are going to love this, is your camera systems. So not only are you going to have a rear backup camera with trajectory, you're also going to have a top view and also a side view. That way you won't be scuffing your rims when you are parking on city streets with a curb. Better yet, whether you are in reverse or you put into drive after parking, you are going to have that trajectory. So you're going to have a great vision to work with here when you are in a garage or you're on those city streets. So that is one thing that you really want to have in a luxury car such as this, especially a car of this size as well. So that's some really cool tech to have here in this car. Then for the rest of the interior, you will have a wireless phone charging pad, at least for our model today. And next to that, on the left side will be your drive mode selector, where you can scroll through Tour, Sport, Snow, Ice, and of course My Mode, where you can customize the driving experience to your liking. Now with our model having the V6, you're probably going to want to be in Sport all the time, with this car being more performance oriented. As always, you will have two cup holders. And then for the center storage compartment, there's plenty of room for smaller items such as a couple wallets, smartphones, or other gadgets. And you'll have a USB-C, USB input, and 12-volt outlet. And then to round out the interior for our model, we do have a panoramic moonroof, which brings in a lot of natural light to the interior. Now moving on to the second row, we're going to start off on the passenger side. And with the seat adjusted all the way back, it's not on a recline. I actually have a decent amount of legroom here, which is a bit of a surprise. Now, when it comes to interior dimensions for the second row, passengers in the back will get right around 38 inches of legroom, which is 3 inches better than the BMW 3 Series and other sedans in this market. That is the key difference here for the CT5 compared to its closest rivals in regards to pricing. So you're getting the mid-size sedan attributes without spending the luxury mid-size price. And of course, to get this amount of interior space out of a sedan of around this size, you're spending $60,000, $65,000, or $70,000. So that is going to be really where the CT5 has a lot of value, especially if you do have a family or smaller kids joining you on road trips or weekday commutes all the time. One thing I really do like about the CT5 though is the fact that these seats do provide a decent amount of support and bolstering. You won't be swinging around too much on a longer drive, at least I don't think you will be. Also, the thing too is that the interior, especially for the second row, does wrap around you, giving you more of a grand tour feel. The center hump is very aggressive, and that will play a role in how many people you can fit back here. I think for a lot of cars in this market, you're not going to be able to have 3 people sit back here comfortably, and the CT5 is no exception. With that larger center hump, it's going to take away from the shoulder room and leg room, and I think that if you are looking for a more family-friendly experience and you want to have 3 people in the back, you might want to go with the XT4 or XT5. In regards to headroom though, For taller passengers around the height of 6 feet tall, they will most certainly be hitting their head on the headliner. Of course, that's not too much of a surprise with the CT5 being a sedan, but also, as you've already seen from the outside, it has a sloping roofline and you will be sacrificing some of the headroom. But you're buying a sedan, so you probably already factored that into the equation. Also back here, you will have 2 rear air vents to go along with a 12-volt outlet and a USB-C input. And rounding out the second row seating area, you do get a center armrest with 2 cup holders. Then making our way around the back one more time to check out the rear cargo area. You're not going to have a power trunk on this model, but inside behind the second row seat, you're looking at right around 12 cubic feet of room, which does fall in line with a lot of sedans in this market. Obviously, if you want the most amount of practicality for the price, you're going to have to go with the XT4 or XT5. But most likely, if you're choosing a CT5, this is all about the luxury and comfort, with it being a daily cruiser and commuter. I was able to fit all my camera gear today, no problem. So that's 3 bags of camera gear, a gimbal box, and a tripod. And I still had a bit more room to store other items as well. So if you are going on a road trip with the family or a significant other, you could probably fit 6, 7, or 8 bags of luggage back here, depending on the size of those bags. On the right side of the rear cargo area, there will be a cubby for some smaller items, such as a couple small water bottles, car detail equipment, or maybe even a first aid kit. Obviously, you can lower the second row seats to maximize the cargo capacity. But honestly, with this just being a sedan, you're buying this car for its luxury attributes. You're buying it because it's going to be a mid-size sedan at a compact sedan price point. And I still think you're getting a lot of value for the price in regards to the interior dimensions for the second row and up front as well. So you're getting that luxury experience, but you're not spending all that money to do so. And then to wrap up, with this not being a power trunk, there will be a little grip here and handle where you can just close it and you can be on your way. All right, so we're now behind the wheel of the 2025 Cadillac CT5. Let's take this sedan out for a quick test ride to see how it performs, how it handles, how it drives. This is actually the first time I'm featuring the CT5 with the twin-turbo V6, so I'm actually quite interested and compelled with this sedan. I will say though, the sound of the V6 is a lot better than the 4-cylinder. But also for a car like this and what Cadillac is all about, you want that performance. I think a lot of people tend to go with the V series if they want a performance-oriented car from Cadillac, or maybe, of course, the Blackwing. But if you're not looking to spend close to $70,000 or $80,000, maybe this is a great option. So since we are behind the wheel of a V6 model, let's put it in sport mode. Now, I am really impressed with how this sedan handles, but also how it feels on the roadways. Yes, it's tuned primarily for comfort and luxury over everything else. You're not going to have the sportiest suspension on this particular model. However, I do find that everything is far more smoother with this engine. Even with the 10-speed automatic transmission, this car rides really nicely. Now, I think Cadillac is learning, much like Volvo did, that you can't out-luxury the Germans. You can only outperform them, and you can also out-tech them. And I think BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and Audi, or mostly BMW, Mercedes-Benz, are kind of going in the wrong direction with their technology, especially the infotainment system and gauge cluster. So Cadillac can really gain the upper hand here with their interior right now. And I have to say, this is so much more immersive and futuristic than it was in the past. And I have to say, the fact that they're blending in this new technology is really going a long way, especially where it no longer feels like a Chevrolet or a nicer Chevrolet. This actually feels like what a Cadillac in 2024 or 2025 should feel like. So we're going to get an opportunity to accelerate and get on this little highway here. Very nice, very nice. Now, as I talked about earlier on in this video, that with the V6, you're spending below $60,000, whereas the rivals, you're spending close to $60,000, if not $65,000, especially with the M340i and the S4. So you're undercutting the rivals here with this performance. And I think you're definitely going to love the twin-turbo V6 over the 4-cylinder. I think it's definitely worth the investment and worth paying a little extra for. Now, as you go over the bumps and imperfections, handling them pretty well. Of course, though, it does exhibit the traditional Cadillac experience with more of that floaty feel. Of course, you're probably going to want the V-Series or Blackwing if you really want to feel truly connected to the road. But as a daily driver, as a luxury car, this definitely fills that role very well. Another thing I really like too about the CT5, very strong brakes. Now, we don't have the Brembos that are optional for the CT5 for 2025, but a lot of confidence. And rather than just being solely luxurious or one-dimensional, this does have some sporty characteristics to it. I find the steering to be nicely weighted in sport mode. And also another thing too is that, again, since it is a Cadillac, you're buying it for the prestige, the persona, the upscale driving environment, and upscale driving experience. The V6 doesn't drone. It's actually quite quiet. In regards to road noise, even with the 20-inch wheels, not really noticing a lot of it. Nice isolated feel when you are behind the wheel. And I definitely noticed that one thing that Cadillac did focus on was that interior noise and canceling out the outside world, because I was expecting a lot more wind noise, road noise, especially with the 20s. But because the suspension is tuned rather softly, it hides a lot of the discomfort that would be associated with larger tires. Obviously though, with this car's size and weight, it's not going to feel as agile as an A4, as a 3 Series, as a C300. However, Cadillac does have a niche buyer, and for those buyers who are looking for the best value or looking for the most amount of car for the price, at $54,000, you have a sedan that feels like a 5 Series, but you're saving 10 to 20 grand. We're gonna see how the CT5 does on this little back road here. Body roll. On the brakes, nice and strong. On the brakes once again. Yeah, it handles pretty well. For a car without a sports tuned suspension, this is rather impressive. And that's what's given Cadillac a unique position in this segment, that they've really leaned into performance. And that was not something they typically did. And even in the past, and I've talked about this numerous times on the channel, that Cadillac has kind of emulated BMW in a way. You can see that with the rotary dial, but also just in terms of going in that sportier direction. But I feel that now, heading into the second half of the 2020s, Cadillac is kind of embracing their own sense of performance and driving dynamics that gives this car a unique feel on the roadways. That it doesn't feel European, it feels American. And while that would be more enhanced with the Blackwing, the fact that Cadillac is kind of leaning into this kind of tells you that even though they want to go all electric, they can still be fun and enjoyable on a daily basis. And I think Cadillac understands that their target demographic the last 30, 40 years is starting to thin out. And they need to start reaching newer consumers that are younger, that are looking for luxury, that are looking for an upscale driving experience, but not necessarily breaking the bank. And the fact that Cadillac undercuts BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Audi, and I think now with this technology, you don't feel like you're cheapening out. This really does feel like a car that can now compete with the Germans, with the Swedes, with the Brits. But also, Cadillac is the last American manufacturer in this segment and in this market, and they can kind of afford to take risks and really play around with the driving dynamics and their formula. And I think now that we're at this point where Cadillac is understanding what buyers are looking for in the luxury segments, they're now becoming an enticing manufacturer. Between the two powertrains that Cadillac offers for this trim and for this model that's not the V Series or the Blackwing, I prefer this engine for sure. And I think it also pairs very well with a car of this length and size. That with the Turbo 4, you're going to notice that's a bit more lethargic. It isn't quick. It's not going to be dynamic in any way, shape, or form. And your 0 to 60 times with the Turbo 4 do fall behind its closest rivals. Whereas with the twin turbo V6, this car does feel spry. It feels athletic. It has a soul to it that a lot of enthusiasts are going to like. But also, if you're a traditional Cadillac buyer, maybe you want the bigger engine, and you're most certainly going to like it. Now, as I talked about earlier on, you are sacrificing the fuel efficiency and overall economical aspect of this car because, again, you are saving 10 grand compared to the rivals. But I think that with the twin-turbo V6, you'll be far more happier with this engine. And because of that, sport mode is more meaningful. Also, you have really nice paddle shifters, too, that don't feel cheap in the hands, and that goes along with this leather-wrapped steering wheel. We have nice positions for the 9 and 3 grips, also, of course, beefy 10 and 2. And with this 10-speed automatic, it shifts very smoothly. And I have to say, it is quite satisfying. But as I can tell, this really truly is a luxury sedan through and through. All in all, after this quick test drive, I think Cadillac has a nice car here. They've addressed the weak points that really plagued the lineup in the past by embracing new technology. That, I think, is actually the key here for this car and just for the Cadillac brand in general, that if you can give the Germans and Europeans a run for their money when it comes to technology, you'll most certainly draw in buyers. It's all going to come down to the value for the price, especially during this era in the automotive industry where everything is overinflated. To save 10 grand compared to the rivals, and to also get a car that's larger than the compact sedans such as the 3 Series, the Giulia, the Genesis G70, and also getting a twin-turbo V6 well below the rivals as well, it gives this car a competitive chance in this market. And we're starting to see that with the sales figures. Cadillac has done very well with the CT5 over the last 2 years, and I think with the mid-cycle refresh, this might draw in a lot more buyers too. So for 2025, it has the looks, it has the interior, and with the powertrain options, it has the performance. And for a car in this segment, when sedans are kind of a dying breed, there's not much more you could possibly ask for. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys next time.